and the building. Good. We respect and acknowledge these traditional lands of the Songhees, and we welcome you to who you are, no where it may take you in the future. Know that you are always welcome here. Thanks that you have found your way to us this by making a few. I'm hoping that there's just a few. I'm on one of our ministries, and a guest on that near service. So do we have announcements? The first. Oh, Ellie!
Reminder that next Sunday we have singing amazing things for you to light your candles to at 2:30. Also, we have a string quartet, a fantastic pianist coming, and wonderful things.
And the one announcement that I will say to is the single conversation to happen on November immediately following this. We get you out there. It will be a conversation much closer to discerning what the gifts for the new minister coming. Picking those skills apart, but we will more deeply where we want to go as a congregation. We can discern what we need. Just take a moment. Up to light the Christ candle. We'll use that. Even when we think we can't find the light is there. Jesus, I am the light of the world. Jesus says, you are the light of the world. Our light continues.
People always, we were asking for money once more. Is still part of it. But 7 years ago, we had looking at it many other ways. It included time, measures, terrain. The 5 T's of stewardship. Life stewardship is every. After we say the words, it refers to our whole life. Very exciting. I have heard some very good years, and I look forward to have learned with you as financial picture. In some areas, a 6 next little while. Enjoy learning more about these teas, as well as me giving the talks in church. Your bulletin. Thank you.
Yahweh, we come to you. Yahweh, we come to you. Yahweh, we come to you. Yahweh, we come. Providing one. Your blessings on us. Open our eyes that we might see all that is before us and all that is ahead of us. Lead us in wanderings.
Right? The children feels like they are young. So you'll want to get close. Come on. Once. So I'll bet that said that to you when you're going on a trip. Birthday party. The car trip to visit. Is really, really. Maybe they should take a little longer to get there.
Maybe they should go there earlier.
Maybe they should go there earlier, but it'll still take just as long to get there.
So just in case it takes her days.
Oh, just in case it does take days, that's a good plan. You might find yourself saying things like, "It's taking forever." Staring out your window at 1,000 miles of road can get boring pretty quickly. Not even all the toys in this world can help. But becomes too bored. Now I got to figure out how to read this. Minutes begin to feel like hours. I'm bored. Look, he's moved himself into the wild, wild west. Hours feel like days. I feel sick. Look at that. He's on a pirate ship now. Days become months. My butt hurts, he says as he sits in the car in the middle of a feud. It'll just be a quick trip, your parents promise. I have to go to the bathroom. Oh my gosh, but it feels like it's been 1,000,000 years. Look at what's peeking out there. It's your dinosaur. There it is, a giant dinosaur. Man, this kid is traveling all over the place. So take a second to savor the moment you're in. This will help make time fly by quickly. Now they get to ride on the dinosaur. That would be a pretty cool way to get to Grandma's, wouldn't it? Oh, and there's a turtle on the roof of the car. Oh my goodness. And look, they brought all the pirates and princesses and them. Maybe the time will fly by too quickly. Now they're in the future. Oh my goodness. 257 Kaplan Avenue? That's Grandma's address. It's not here anymore. They're in the year 2059. Grandma's house has disappeared. Oh my gosh. Don't worry, we're not there yet. Oh, be there soon. The road is full of twists and turns. Life may take you. We're here. So sit back. Remember, there's no greater gift than present. There they are, all having cake, having a party. Can we go now? Just the way it is. We wait to get where we want to go, and then once we're there, it's like, oh, this isn't all that great. Let's. We're going to hear about when you go off to Sunday school today. A bunch of people who are wandering around in the wilderness going, is God even with us? Because sometimes we forget. Perfect place to be. And God is always with us in this place, right now, whether we remember that or not. So let's fold our hands and close our eyes and listen for the quiet. And we say, thank you, God, for the present, for everything that is around us and all the people who love us right here, right now. Thank you that you are here with us, leading us and holding us and loving us, no matter what. Amen. Thank you for being such great listeners this morning. And I think you get to go off to Sunday school now. And we have a song to sing. Sorry. Can I just ask that somebody who knows how, close these two blinds here? We have people who are blinded by the light. Thank you.
Our readings this morning are from Exodus. The whole Israelite community set out from Elim, and on the 15th day of the second month, after they had left Egypt, they came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. There in the desert, they all complained to Moses and Aaron and said to them, "We wish that the Lord had killed us in Egypt. There we could at least sit down and eat meat and as much food as we wanted. But you have brought us out to this desert to starve us all to death." The Lord said to Moses, "Now I'm going to make food rain down from the sky for all of you. The people must go out every day and gather enough for that day. In this way, to find out if they will follow my instructions. On the 6th day, they are to bring in twice as much as usual and prepare it." The whole Israelite community left the desert of Sin, moving from one place to another at the command of the Lord. they made camp at Redheben, but there was no water there to drink. They complained to Moses and said, "Give us water." Moses answered, "Why are you complaining? Why are you putting the Lord to the test?" But the people were very thirsty and continued to complain to Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt? To kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" Moses prayed earnestly to the Lord and said, "What can I do with these people? They're almost ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Take some of the leaders of Israel with you and go on ahead of the people. Take along the stick with which you struck the Nile. I will stand before you on a rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." Moses did so in the presence of the leaders of Israel. The place was named Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites complained and put the Lord to the test when they asked, "Is the Lord with us or not?" This is part of our story.
Thanks be to God.
Cry, I have heard my people's cry.
please. God of the wilderness, guide us into an open-hearted moment, that we might know your presence with us and follow you faithfully to a place you have yet to show us. Amen. The whole congregation is wandering in the wilderness. And what begins as a question between a couple of friends moves swiftly through all of the people until the crowd is chanting, "Is the Lord among us or not?" We are hungry and we are tired. Is the Lord among us or not? We are thirsty. We are covered in dust and dirt. Is the Lord among us or not? They ask, not because God has deserted them, not because Moses has gone off on his own and left them to fend. No, they ask and demand a response because they have forgotten. They have forgotten how difficult their lives were in the years leading up to this. They have forgotten how hard they had to work to stay alive, how hard they had to work to retain their true faith, to not be overwhelmed by the daily challenges of life. Is the Lord among us or not? They ask and demand a response because what they thought was going to be an exciting little adventure is turning into a challenging, exhausting, seemingly hopeless venture to nowhere. Is the Lord among us or not? And God, with unwavering patience and undying love for the congregation, keeps showing up. God shows up in the saving of the infant Moses and in the burning bush that calls him. God shows up in the escape from Egypt and in the parting of the waters that saves them. Over and over again, God shows up. God shows up in the manna that feeds them, and in the water that comes from the rock, the cool, clear, crisp, fresh water in the middle of the desert. God shows up. Time and God shows up, God's people, and shortly to God. But ego takes over. Uncertainty takes over. Completely lose sight. Who is holding them? One who is nurturing them, is guiding them through. When they can't see what, they assume there isn't anything at all. If they don't have the map, they must be lost. God offers a lesson in trust. I am going to rain from heaven, and each day people shall go out and only enough food for that day. Really? The people only enough food for a day. Don't hoard it. Don't put it away for later. Because if you do, it will rot in, and you Trust in me, God says. Trust that I to get where I want you to be. In the midst of this wilderness wandering, in the midst of starvation, be there. I will nourish you. Trust. But notice that this whole of incipient whining congregation takes place only 2 months. If they knew they had another 470. Trust in me, says Yahweh, and I will get you where I want you to be. Now, any good historian, no evidence of Egypt ever. And yet, who in this congregation has not experienced their own wilderness? Those times when being led to something stand, but still to be laid out before us. A path filled with twists and turns, a path that takes far longer than anything or imagined. Go another direction. We can feel the draw to the path that God sets before us. It is not without times of trepidation, impatience, ego meddling, of looking back fondly at the past. The past is made up of moments of reminiscing, it seems, at looking through rose-colored glasses. Faced in the past. It is the story of our story. It will be the story of generations. Personal story. Church. This story can ring true for our personal deed is exactly today finds ourselves. Wilderness for which we cannot see but the church has found itself lost. This wandering church of the 21st century, fine company. The 500 the Reformation of the church. Since Martin Luther and began a movement like John Calvin, stepping in, and Luther had were his concerns about the Catholic Church, but he was compelled to be different. The years of wilderness wandering, reflecting arguing with, and finally to write and theses on the door. His persistence and actions, the landscape of the Christian. And then, of course, there were the year 25 and the Church of Canada. On those glory days, he spoke to the people who prayed, negotiated, procrastinated, shouted at God and as they worked towards union. Challenges of that they wanted before arriving at a united denomination. Here we are again. Crossroad where God has nudged or out into a time of wilderness. We know where we've come from. We know the traditional ways of being church aren't in the modern culture. We are being called to something new, unknown. New from the start to end. Precise steps that will lead from point A to point B to point C until we a new place, that of being. But we're all that easy. We had done it ourselves. Yes, that made the road so straight. If it were easy, we would lose our religion and empowering. Aaron's book, We Make the Road by Walking, reminds us that the road to freedom doesn't follow a straight line from point A. Instead, it zigzags and backtracks through a delay, distress, and strain. Those who have walked before, we need that grumbling, complaining, as snakes, hot desert sun. Like them, must be forewarned. Danger of catastrophizing the present and romanticizing the past. Like them, we must remember that going is difficult. McLaren states, is always for ride we keep one there yet is wilderness, freedom that awaits in the promised land. There is a wisdom we will need there that we can only. There is a strength and skill we will need in the future that we can develop only here and now, in the midst. There is a depth that will be there as long as we learn to trust God now. These struggles, Aaron states, make us either bitter the trials will lead to either break or break through. To our old lives, and a forward call, we will discover unexplainable moments like manna. Desert water. All odds. By faith, we will survive. There are no. The road cannot be made by wishing. It can be made only by day after day. Step, struggle by struggle. And have been times we are frustrated, exhausted, and crying out, "Is the Lord among us or not?" Know this. Know that the Holy Spirit is indeed among us. Wavering patience, congregation keeps after time, encouraging us, empowering us through the wilderness God has planned for us, church. Trust this in God. Amen. We take time now to receive the signs of our whole lives return to the one who
Please join with me in prayer. Loving God, of this day, with challenges and weariness that sneaks up in our lives, a safe container for although often for longing and stress, and yes, for exhaustion, for anticipation and for doubt, and weariness, for time away and that which we can't even imagine. Those are hard things to get. Yet in those things, notice them when we're wandering. Find meaning, to find a sense. Times like that it's helpful that you remind that not all of us who wander are lost. Hopefully that will be in stress. To know that wandering is over, found and staying. Be patient with ourselves, because perhaps that will help us renew ourselves and our vision of life. Help us to hold in our prayer and caring, and we think to hold in our prayers Ross, Roberts, Herb, and Melissa, and the first responders and the epidemic that has Sacred mystery encourages us to create barriers, to use them to build bridges to restoring our hope. Help us to trust your Spirit at work in all of creation, to bring us around to the place just right. And in a spirit of thankfulness, thank you for poets and for poetry that helps us to express in new ways what we think and feel. And I thank you for the poem called Lost by David Wagoner, reminding us, stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here. And you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes, listens, it answers. I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you can come back again, saying here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. Listen to the Spirit. The forest knows where you are. The Spirit is with you. You must let it find you. Now I ask that you would join with me in the Jesus prayer as it is on the monitor. Our Father, our Mother in heaven, hallowed be your name. Mystery beyond our knowing, close to us as our breathing. In humble awe we pray. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as in heaven. We pray for your vision of justice and mercy to be made real in our world, even now. Give us today our daily bread. We pray for your vision of enough sustenance, enough warmth, enough healing for all of your children. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from evil. We pray for the grace to let go of that which is death-dealing. For the kingdom, power, and the glory now. For presence, definition, Amen.
Before we move into our closing, surprise Janet and invite her and her guest to come up now as we hear about Out of the Rain.
we're going to share the mic up here. And we're going to do a bit of a dialogue. Oops. My name is Janet, and many of you know me as part of the outreach here at First Met, and many of you have met my guest here before too. I would like to introduce Jen Mortimer. And we are here before you today, as I mentioned last week, about the Out of the Rain mission that we do here at the church. And I wanted to ask Jen, we can put our umbrellas down, I guess, but it's a bit symbolic. You've got the little frogs on the screen under their leaf to remind you. But we're here to just talk a little bit about Out of the Rain, and I wanted to ask Jen if she would maybe tell you what she does for Out of the Rain shelter.
Sure.
You have to speak. Right?
Okay. Ooh, I've never done this before. Anyone who's seen me speak here before knows that I am not a public speaker. It makes me incredibly nervous. So if I burst into tears, it's just because this is a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. I am the coordinator for the Out of the Rain Youth Shelter, so that means that for 6 months of the year, between October 15th and April 15th, we open our doors using donated spaces to make sure that the youth, the homeless population, youth 15 to 25, have a safe place to sleep for the coldest months of the year. So I coordinate that with all of our meal volunteers, our staffing, and make sure that the youth are safe and warm every night. I don't know.
Thank you. So up here on the screen, you can't read all the details, but it tells you it's something that's posted around the city for youth to find out about as they are wandering around. And they are all wandering in the desert perhaps, or the wilderness, but they're not all lost. Sometimes they need just a warm, dry place to spend the night. So each night of the week is covered during the winter somewhere in the city. And as I mentioned before, we used to house it for 20 years. We housed it in our fellowship hall, and now we're supporting it happening in other spaces. Can you tell me, Jen, what it's like when young people come in off the street, what it is that they're looking for, what it is that they get when they come into the shelter?
I can try. This is the one that's going to make me cry. So typically we see the youth, they come in and they're just looking for a safe space. They're looking for a non-judgmental, welcoming, warm place to be. Our staff make sure that not only our doors are open, but our hearts are open to the youth, and we allow them the opportunity to share with us as they choose to, without the pressure to explain why they are where they are. I mean, I'm not sure I'm explaining it well because I wasn't prepared for your questions, but we just see the most amazing kids, and maybe I'll just tell you who we see. The kids that we see, they are truly the strongest, the most resilient, the most beautiful human beings I've ever met in my life. They're artistic and smart, and they're struggling and they're afraid. They've had trauma that I can't see. This is why I don't public speak. They've had trauma I can't even begin to imagine. And I run this program because it is a way for me to show them that they have a community. It's a way for me to show them that we have this huge group of people who care about them, who make food, who allow us to use their gymnasiums and their spaces, and they never ask us any questions. They just pass us the keys and let us come in. They cook meals for 30 in their own kitchens and bring them in hot for the kids. They come and they serve food, and they just allow these kids to be. And it's just so meaningful to me that we can create a community. Sorry.
Jen is a very special staff person for Beacon Community Services, and we're very, very fortunate to have them as a lead agency for this Out of the Rain, as well as many other services that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. But Jen provides really special, heartfelt, as you can see, position staff to really, really radically welcome these young people into the shelter. So all of us benefit from having staff like Jen part of that. Is there anything else, Jen, that you think would be special to share with these folks here about Out of the Rain that you haven't already shared?
I just want to thank you all. I think, as Janet has pointed out, for 20 years we used your space, and you were one of the leading churches and agencies that came together to create this wonderful resource for youth here in Victoria. And I want to thank you for, although we don't have a place in your hall anymore, I can see from looking out there, and for many of you who have spoken to me in the past, we still have a place in your heart. And so thank you for remembering the youth, and we just really appreciate all the work that you've done for us, and that the youth continue to remain in your prayers and in your hearts and in your thoughts. So thank you.
Thanks, Jen. I just wanted to highlight too, for some of you know this, but the reason we have the hall full of adults in a shelter are the reason that we don't want to combine. There's a special need to separate and have a safe place for the younger group of people out wandering around and needing a shelter, and it's important not to combine them into the same spaces as older adults who have been living. It's a great place for our older shelter right now to be in our fellowship hall, but we're really fortunate to have these separate spaces for the youth. So I just wanted to thank Jen very much for being here and for the work that she does and for your support of this Out of the Rain mission. There are yellow envelopes at the entrance that way and this way out just as you go out the door, and over the next couple of weeks, if you feel like you can contribute to it, that's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet and Jen. And God will always provide. Go out trusting this, trusting in God as we walk in peace, as we share our joy.